Okay, I would like to say that those who work in cultural heritage understand very good the need of fighting against illicit traffic. We don't need to explain. We don't need to explain that a stolen piece of heritage deprives the whole community from enjoying it. We know it. So we know that illicit excavations destroy pages of the book of history, as they always said, and we lose a lot of information that we would get if they were done in a scientific excavations. We know that all. But when we enter to do research in the topic, we discover that it really goes far beyond the loss of heritage. We see that there is money laundering, that there is the funding of international terrorism, and there is the funding of a lot of different criminal international mafias. So the European Union has taken a global approach, and there are different directorate generals that are trying to tackle it from different perspectives. We have people working from the point of view of international relations, from the internal affairs, from trade, and for every angle that needs the complexity of the topic. The General Directorate for Research and Innovation has understood the complexity, and for that they are founding the 3 projects that we are going to see now, projects whose partners are distributed through many different EU member states, and their partners altogether these projects include multidisciplinary teams that undertake their research from many of the different perspectives that are necessary to deal with this complex issue. And now I'm going to present to you to Maria Claudia from the General Director.
Jesus Christ, mister!
What? Maria Claudia
remember to switch off your microphones, and it was someone from the audience, sorry.
Okay. So Maria Claudia Bodino from the General Directorate of Research and Innovation is going to introduce herself.
Thanks a lot. I think it was a very nice welcome, by the way. Thanks, Rodrigo. And hi, everybody. Very happy to be here together with you. I'm Maria Claudia, and I recently joined RTD. I was already working the commission before, and I'm really learning a lot about these new topics. That sounds super relevant, but also very interesting because it's a multidisciplinary, I would say, topic where you need people with different expertise. And that's why I think your projects altogether are really adding value. We had a discussion yesterday with many other DGs, and one of the points we discussed together was about, drafting the new calls for the future. And your community was mentioned as a good example, a good example to share with others, and also to try to let's say to reproduce, because there is a very productive exchange of information. And so the only thing that I want to say is let's keep doing like that, and more than happy to support you, mainly from the policy side, and also support you in really advancing with new findings, maybe more also on the technical side, about how to improve the technical interoperability between different member states, and focusing also on the cross-border dimension that it's key in this phenomenon. So yeah, I don't want to waste a lot of time. Thanks again, Rodrigo. Thanks a lot, colleagues, for organizing this event, and enjoy the workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria Claudia. Thank you very much. We are very happy to meet you, and we cannot wait to work with you. So I will remove from the stage your video. I see that you are activating subtitles. That's great. So before leaving the floor to our speakers, let me present them to you. So first of all, we have Veronique Jankowski, who is a professor in Asian history and ancient economics at the University of Lyon, representing the ANCHISE project. She's currently director of the French School of Athens, a French research institute in Greece. She studied Greek philology, ancient history, and archaeology of the ancient Greek world, and she conducted field research in Greece and Bulgaria. She's the author of numerous publications on ancient Greek society and economy, and she directed several research programs, including an Horizon 2020 project on the protection of cultural heritage nature. She has also published 2 monographs of the history and organizations of trade in Delos in the classical and Hellenistic period. The two monographs are called Athens and Classical Delos and Parasites of the God. She has just been awarded the Paul Duménil Prize for the Académie des Inscriptions et Belles-Lettres for her research on Delos. Also, representing Aurora, we have Domenico Romano, academic background in astrophysics research, scientific winter crew member of the Antarctic Italo-French base of Concordia. He's currently in a Vale Consulting IT company as reference point for AI research and development, leading international research and development research consortium in many different fields. And then, representing Enigma, we have Charalampos Georgiadis, who is an associate professor at the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, rural and surveying engineering. His areas of expertise include, among others, close-range photogrammetry, laser scanning, 3D modeling of cultural heritage goods, image analysis and processing, and big data management and analysis. He is the coordinator of the Enigma project. So, after these presentations, I leave the floor to Ms. Shankosti, and you can start talking.
Okay, so can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Okay, great. So thank you to our project officer and colleagues from Aurora and Enigma for their contributions in this ANCHISE talk, and to all of you for joining us today. Illicit trafficking of cultural property represents a domain where researchers constantly confront evolving realities, a field that transforms with each geopolitical shift. Yet this is precisely where humanities and social sciences bring invaluable expertise through their research and methodologies. Scholars from humanities and social sciences know about identifying object production workshops, understanding archaeological and historical context, comprehending complex legal and social mechanisms. Trafficking networks continuously adapt, but so do our protective approaches. Today, new technologies, often the same ones exploited by traffickers, can significantly enhance heritage protection, but only under certain conditions. This is precisely the ambition of ANCHISE, to create an effective interface between deep contextual understanding and technological innovation, addressing this multifaceted challenge through truly interdisciplinary solutions. So what I hope to convey today is ANCHISE's distinctive approach to combating illicit trafficking of cultural property, one that goes beyond technological solutions to embrace a comprehensive understanding of these complex phenomena. ANCHISE brings together Europe's leading institutions and researchers in a consortium coordinated by the École Française d'Athènes. And what distinguishes our approach is that we integrate basically 2 complementary dimensions: the humanities and social sciences for deep contextual understanding, and operational technological tools for practical intervention. And this dual approach is ANCHISE's defining characteristic. We firmly believe that technology without contextual understanding is ineffective, just as research without practical application cannot create meaningful change. So our team is not new in the field because we have experienced several projects since 2016, and we have recognized 2 fundamental points. The first one is that professionals from different disciplines must collaborate, so the network is as much important as the technological tools. And second, in order to fight the illicit trafficking of cultural property, we need to understand it, and we need a comprehensive approach to that issue. The siloed approach doesn't work against sophisticated trafficking networks. While discussion about cultural trafficking often focus on the MENA region, we must expand our perspective just to mention a few changes that everybody knows: the ongoing European enlargement in the Balkans, the war in Ukraine, and the development of free ports in Asia have radically transformed trafficking routes and methods. So Europe faces growing challenges, both in terms of looting and internal circulation of illicit goods in an increasingly destabilized context. And that's why we try to deploy our tools across diverse European settings, including Bulgaria, Bosnia, Greece, Sweden, acknowledging that this is a pan-European challenge requiring coordinated responses. Our multidisciplinary approach allows us to embrace not just the technological dimension of cultural trafficking, but its deeper sociological and criminological aspects. For instance, we're about to achieve a comprehensive review of threats to archaeological heritage, and this research reveals how trafficking networks adapt to regulatory changes and how they exploit technological advances, leverage legal market mechanisms, those insights that directly inform our technological solutions and implementation strategies. At the core of ANCHISE are 6 complementary tools, each addressing a specific aspect of cultural heritage protection. But these tools aren't standalone technologies. They represent the integration of technological innovation with insights from humanities and social sciences. And as you may see on this slide, they're about technology tools for recognition, but they're also facing the issue of digitization and interconnection of data, because all this is building a system, and this is the basis of our toolbox. Each tool benefits from insights provided by archaeologists, criminologists, and other experts. So this ensures our technologies address real-world challenges rather than theoretical problems. Research and tools deployment can also be complementary approaches to the same issue. For instance, on the question of metal detecting, we both make a social study of detectorism, and we deploy a tool to monitor archaeological sites and identify traces of illicit excavations. It is also necessary to address the growing challenge of artificial intelligence, of course, which is increasingly exploited by traffickers themselves. So by integrating our social science analysis of trafficking patterns and mechanisms, we inform the development of our automated shape and object recognition tools to counter these threats. This illustrates a crucial point that I want to emphasize as well. Unlike theft from museums, the challenge with looting is that we're dealing with objects never previously identified by archaeologists or art historians. Technology alone cannot meet this challenge because we need the expertise of humanities scholars who can analyze style, material, and context to determine authenticity and provenance for these artifacts. So, you understand that these tools cannot function effectively without critical expertise from multiple disciplines. And in the demonstrations that we organize on the field, the tools benefit from data sets collected by archaeologists and museum institutions, and they are tested under real conditions by professionals from various disciplines. This testing phase is not just about technical validation, it's also about ensuring cultural appropriateness, ethical implementation, and practical usability and sustainability in diverse contexts. Because the most sophisticated technologies fails if it doesn't align with the practical realities of field professionals, and it is also necessary to approach the culture fact in this question. Adoption of technologies depends as much on cultural and organizational factors as on technical functionality. Knowledge doesn't create impact unless it is shared. And that's why ANCHISE disseminates its findings, expertise, and network activities through capacity building initiatives, including webinars, symposiums, and training workshops. These activities create communities of practice that sustain the work beyond the project timeline, and they are ensuring that skills and knowledge become embedded in the relevant professional communities across Europe and beyond. Finally, we also address policy brief and policy recommendation, bringing insights from social sciences, expert consultations, field interventions, and technology demonstration to policy discussions. We advocate for the creation of a competence center, assessment of technological needs and solutions, and pilot experiment areas. We also work to raise awareness among professional communities, the art market, and law enforcement agencies, and develop training. Our policy recommendations are grounded in practical experience and trying to offer better protection to cultural heritage. One of ANCHISE's key recommendations is to safeguard traditional academic positions in established disciplines like archaeology, art history, and law, because our experience demonstrates that heritage protection cannot function effectively without this foundational disciplinary competencies. If we no longer train scholars to recognize workshops in archaeology courses, for instance, we will eventually lack the expertise needed to identify looted objects and prove the illicit acquisition. So the multidisciplinary approach to cultural heritage protection must be built upon strong disciplinary foundations. What makes ANCHISE unique is, in conclusion, how it synergizes humanities research and operational tools that enable practical intervention and understanding cultural trafficking. The ultimate goal of our projects is not to create a separate discipline, it's to forge a common workspace where specialists from numerous fields can collaborate effectively toward the same objective. So from archaeologists to data scientists, from law enforcement to museum professionals and archives, ANCHISE provides the framework for these diverse experts to combine their knowledge and skills. And this is also a human adventure that began almost a decade ago with multidisciplinarity in action, and this is also one of the valuable achievement of the project. So as we continue this important work, I look forward to hearing from our colleagues at the Aurora and Enigma projects about their complementarity approaches. And together, I think that our three projects demonstrate strongly the power of European collaboration in addressing this complex challenge. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I will leave the floor to Domenico Romano for the Aurora project.
Thank you very much. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Very good. Let's start the presentation. And let's... Okay, perfect. So, let's have a general view of the Aurora project. I will try to be as fast as possible in the presentation. So Aurora project starts in 2023. It's a 36-year project with a budget approximately of around 3.6 million. So is, as we know, an horizon project, and the participants are spread all across Europe and beyond, since, as you can see, we have members from France, Italy, Ireland, Belgium, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Hungary, and also from Ukraine with the Lviv Polytechnic. So it's a particular, is a very valuable element of knowledge also, but it's also a particular interesting chance to better understand how in very critical situation illicit trafficking and in general illegal activity targeting cultural heritage can spread and intensificate also favored by particularly extreme conditions. So an overview of the Aurora concept. So Aurora consumption is a technological multidisciplinary approach. In fact, it puts together many different disciplines coming from different fields. So chemical research, blockchain technology, artificial intelligence, miniaturized electronics. And the ambition, the focus idea, the convergence point of all this technology is to create a cultural heritage protection and preservation tool that is based fundamentally on two main pillars. So the artwork digital ID, that is a practical thing that is created starting from the artwork properties, and a very strong physical to digital association. This is very crucial in order to establish a solid long-term and anti-tampering and not subject to tampering association between the physical object and the corresponding information in the digital domain. So the practical results of these technologies and this tool is to create a very solid artwork verification process on its authenticity, and also to track artwork transaction between different entities along its story, and artwork position. I mean physical position. So we can imagine all these solutions that are described in very few words, in fact, are very challenging. Also, not only because they combine different technologies, so it's different to combine together different requirements and also different specific competencies, but also because there are very frontier problems. For example, the digital to physical association is not something very easy to achieve for long term and in a very solid way. So our ambition is to put all this technology for the artwork verification and tracking solution, and this solution has to be non-destructive, non-invasive, very cost-effective, and easy to use. So in Aurora, we bring all the difficulties technologically speaking and the expertise requirements. We put all the difficulties to combine together all this technology in the creation of the tool. To create a tool, a solution is better to say, a solution that is possible to use with common devices and practically easy to use. So all the difficulties are on the development side, and the difficulties on the development side are also to guarantee the solidity of the solutions. This is why we want one of the most important goal of Aurora, mission of Aurora, is also to democratize advanced technology use among different cultural heritage institutions, since this is a very delicate topic across different cultural institutions, especially the smallest one, but also for mid-sized one. So the simplicity of our tool business to be employed and applied of our tool is something that will foster easiness of adoption of new technology, or at least pioneering technology as blockchain, for example, in contrast on protecting cultural heritage. At the end of the day, is that the main goal. So Aurora principle, here just a glance of the Aurora main technology. So the combination of nanomaterial, blockchain, AI, and a specific spectroscopy analysis on different level will allow to gain a very deep knowledge and to create a very strong representation, abstract representation of the artwork. I mentioned before miniaturized electronics. The miniaturized electronics is something we are exploring. We are doing a pathfinder of that because the technology is not really ready for, I mean, it's not ready for non very expensive application. So we are trying to start a research pattern as a research path that can arrive very cheap and practical application of non-GPS positioning system. So exploiting miniaturized electronic and wireless based sensor. So one of the other goal of Aurora, of course, is to validate the solution, both the tracking and the artwork authenticity verification process on real artwork. And all of this, as I said, is to prevent and contrast practically the trafficking, the stealing, and also the destruction of cultural heritage objects. So, wider impacts, the solution, this kind of solution also, how it is implemented, offer a wide range of collateral side application, better to say side application. Of course, the art market, so not only for art professional, cultural heritage institution, but also for the art market. The art market, as we know, the digital identity, there are many different solutions for the digital identity. We are looking in particular for a solution that is not yet existing on museal, as I said, cultural heritage object, because it's much more easier now to create anti-trafficking version for digital or artwork that are created now. Side effects, are also application for public administration, for example, to census cultural heritage inventories, assets, and so on. But in general, the application is beside the cultural heritage. Since, for example, our system relies on the blockchain to exploit these properties to be immutable, unalterable, and in fact anti-tampering proof, to store and retrieve critical information. So in fact, we do not depend on the type of information, and this guarantees a certain high level of interoperability, among different applications, even among the different cultural heritage institutions, since we don't need particular requirements on the type of information. Of course, blockchain is something that can cost a lot, depending on the information, the size of information you store in. But yeah, every data can be embedded, compressed, transformed, abstractly represented in order to preserve the cost. Besides these first two wider impacts, also the Aurora solution is something that goes against the loss of cultural identities. So having the tracking and the provenance record that is preserved in a very strong way as through the blockchain can allow, for example, to recognize objects that were stolen or were lost in time. So this will allow to recover and assign the identification of provenance to object that are discovered. Of course, this object has to be marked by the Aurora solution, but of course, this is something that can start from now and on. The wider application in general, as I said, is also the application to any general goods, since the overall concept is prone to be applied on many different objects. Here, just a schematic view, a very schematic view with examples. So as I said before, we create artifact from very specific scan. We create artifact specific information from which we create an artwork fingerprint. This specific information allow to create a chemical marker, a specific marker that is applied in a non-invasive and non-destructive way on the artwork. The same artifact is stored in the blockchain, so the very common devices is possible to retrieve the information from the marker in the applied on the artwork and then compare it on the blockchain. Of course, this is just a general rule. There are many different specific details on each step because it cannot be so easy, unfortunately. But of course, it's just to give you a general glance of this. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Domenico. So from Aurora to Enigma. So I ask Haralampos to, okay, see you're ready. I give you the floor.
Okay, thank you very much, Marco. Okay, so Enigma basically is endorsing, safeguarding, protection, provenance management of cultural heritage. It's a project that is being implemented by 12 partners from 7 countries. It will last for 3 years. It started on January 1st, 2023, and it's ending at the end of the year. All the work is implemented by 7 work packages and has 29 deliverables. And the implementation has 3 phases. The first phase is the user requirements and the architectural model and decision making. The second phase is the development of all the modules, tools, and components. And the third phase is the deployment of the platform, the validation, and the training. So here we can see a general overview of the work packages. So one work package is dedicated to analyzing the user needs and the technological requirements and basically providing all the information for the development. And it also schedules and designs all the pilot cases. Then we have 2 work packages that are mainly have to do with the development of all the different tools that Enigma is going to integrate in a common platform. Work package 5 basically integrates all of the tools and components in a holistic and common platform that is going to be used by the end users. And finally, we have the pilots implementation and the overall system validation, which will lead eventually in policy framework and recommendations. Here we can see what are the main challenges of Enigma. Enigma is mainly focusing on trying to find and understand and identify the provenance of unregistered and unknown cultural goods, meaning that we are focusing mostly on goods that have been looted by monuments or have been illegally excavated. What are the problems and the bottlenecks and the challenges that we might face? One has to do with the authenticity and traceability of the cultural goods, because for this specific unregistered goods, we have a minimum amount of information and we have insufficient authentication. So in order to be able to process and have the provenance validation. Another thing is that even though that we might use existing repositories and databases, usually they are non-interoperable because each one of them using their own system and database structure. Also, there is fragmented supported actions and there is limited awareness and shared understanding about these repositories. And finally, when we come to the documentation and registration of cultural goods, we are focusing on unregistered ones or fractured ones or ones that they have fake provenance. So in order to be able to address these challenges, these technical challenges, here are the Enigma roadmap. The first step is to develop the unique authenticity identifier and the related tools, and this is being done by providing data modeling and digital twin approaches in order to have enhanced authentication and also preservation and documentation of known objects or even unregistered one. how we can create a 3D reconstruction of cultural goods when we have incomplete information, for example, just fragments of a cultural good, and also how we can use artificial intelligence and machine learning tools in order to do contextual analysis in unstructured databases and unstructured information in order to be able to stratify cultural goods. Another thing that Enigma is developing is an Earth observation toolkit that, using satellite imagery, can monitor endangered heritage sites based on insights from law enforcement agencies or ministries of culture. The other problem is how we can link and use the existing database. This is solved and dealt by the co-creation of a joint workspace. And finally, by combining all this, we develop a decision support platform that can provide advanced decision support, has a provenance research tool that basically integrates and encompasses all the tools that are going to be developed, and also scenario building edging that can help the authorities to optimize their workflows in regarding how they fight illicit trafficking. Here we can see an overview of the Enigma platform. We can see that it's structured in the backend infrastructure and the front end. The front end basically has the tools for the end users, and the end users are going to be law enforcement agencies and experts that they can use the remote sensing tools, the UAI and the similarity checking tool, which is part of the provenance tool, and information for the public participation tool. Also, the experts are going to use the same tools, but with different functionality. In addition, we have the auxiliary tools, which is the Earth observation and GIS data and the public participation and crowdsourcing tool that provide alerts for sites that have been illegally excavated or monuments or buildings that have been looted. And on the backend infrastructure, we have a web crawler that can crawl unstructured databases that we can find on the web or other websites in order to identify potentially illicit trafficked goods. We have databases that we connect with API, and using artificial intelligence and machine learning tools, we can curate this data and migrate it basically in the joint data workspace of Enigma, which is a structured database using the Europeana data model and standardized vocabularies in order to be able to create a common database that we can use to search and find similarities between known and registered objects and unknown objects that can be found. The whole platform is running in a responsive format, so it can either be accessed by a web browser or a mobile device. And here we can see an example of the screen for the provenance tool of an ELIA officer. As I said before, the main tool that encompasses everything is the provenance research tool. And here I can present the overview of how it works. So basically, when a law enforcement agent comes across with in a cultural good in any entry point or exit point in a country, then they can input some of the basic details of the cultural good. They can upload the documents and photos, and also if they have the ability to scan using a fast documentation method and upload a 3D model of the object, and then they assign the job to an expert. So basically, then the expert can view all the assignments that he has and go and study all the uploaded documents and info. Also, they can review the object and help to the object identification. And during this process, we have the automatic process of filling in some blanks and some parameters that the law enforcement agent cannot fill because he's not an expert on identifying cultural goods, but these blanks can be filled automatically by the artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms. Finally, the expert can validate all this information that has been inserted automatically, update the cultural good information using the insight from the similarity process, and come to a conclusion if the object that it's studying is illegal trafficked or falls under the protection of the law protection, of the national law protection information. And basically what Enigma aspires to do and is doing is provide a tool to the experts in order to identify the provenance of a tool, because artificial intelligence and machine learning can provide help, but they are just an assistant that can help the experts finish their work easier and faster. So thank you for your attention. That's all for me.
Thank you very much. And now that we heard from Enigma, I would like the three project coordinator to step forward, because we have some questions. Waiting for the moments we are going to answer to the Q&A, to the questions in the chat. I would like to ask you. We've been hearing from Rodrigo and about the European dimension of these projects, and you touched upon it in your presentations. But I would like you to answer very briefly to this question of why are we working with these topics at EU level, and why is the European dimension so important? Maybe I'll coordinate also the floor. Haralampos, maybe you ended. I'll leave you the floor, and then we turn with the floor.
Okay, so basically in 2022, there was communication from the Commission. It was the EU Action Plan Against Trafficking in Cultural Goods. So in this communication, they defined basically the problem of illicit trafficking. And some of the issues that they identified is how to identify the authenticity, the provenience, and the legal status of a cultural good, which is rarely instantly visible, and often requires specific expertise to be established. Currently, when the report was written, the available picture was not adequately reflect the prevalence of cultural goods, and moreover, the unregistered cultural goods, meaning the goods that come from illegal excavation or uncataloged collections, are hard to detect and track once they have become subject to trafficking. So that was the initial communication from the Commission, and that's what led to the call that led to the funding of the three projects. And that is something that is very that we need to solve. So a lot of these objects basically are coming to Europe because Europe is an advanced country. There are a lot of money, so people they have the money and they have the connections to acquire all these illicitly trafficked goods.
Véronique, si tu veux, if you want to add
Yes.
anything on the subject.
Yes, I totally agree with what Haralambos just said. It's that we need the European dimension because the problem is transnational. It's a global problem. Source countries are often outside Europe, but not always. But anyway, the European market is one of the main targets for looted artifacts coming through those roads. So we need this transnational approach, and we need also to collect multidisciplinary expertise which exists across Europe and not within a single country, because once you have a fragmented national approach to the problem, you create exploitable gaps, and traffickers specifically target regulatory differences between countries. So European dimension and union between the different countries is very important, building this multidisciplinary approach and partnerships.
And Domenico, if you want to add on it.
Yes. Well, it's most of the things were said already by the other two coordinators for ANCHISE and Enigma, but I can add the problem dimension is global, so it requires a global approach. But in particular, considering the European realities, for example, we are dealing with technologies, blockchain, as I mentioned before, that needs a homogeneous approach, needs harmonization between the different regulamentations. So it's very important for us to understand the limitations of applicability or the gray zones of applicability of these technological solutions. And this is also an aspect for different manipulation, let's say, not manipulation, but transformations, elaboration, let's say better, that can be done at the artwork level in order to extract the proper information. So for sure, only a national approach is totally insufficient. Also to have a complete view of the dimension of the problem.
I see. And since you're talking about this importance of joining different sectors together and the importance of the European dimension, looking at the complexity of illicit trafficking networks and the need for coordinated actions, it seems like the creation of a dedicated European competence center, as Veronica also called it, seems like a natural evolution also of what we are doing here with these projects. How do you envision such an agency, such competence center, building upon the foundations laid by your projects, by the projects together, to ensure a long-term effectiveness in cultural heritage protection? I would let Veronique starting for answering this question.
Yes, thank you, Marco. Yes, in fact, I think that we have two important aspects in that respect. We have research and we have networks, and it is nice to have an approach through project. Once you're speaking about research, it's challenging and it's also creating some steps, and you can move further. But the problem is that each time you end a project, you lose the network. So a competence center is important because we need this coordination, this European coordination, and we need this multidisciplinary approach. So there is kind of a basic core that we have to keep and to make sustainable with this network. And then we can run projects because research is about project and the issue is evolving. So we need research in this problem of fighting against illicit trafficking and protecting cultural heritage. But you cannot have efficient research if you don't have the basic network, which is building the core of these and allowing people to continue on a strong and sustainable basis. It's also the question of the sustainability of the results. At the moment, we have to gather all those competencies, all those results, all those tools, and to give the possibility to make them evolve and make them being used by professional cultural heritage professionals, for instance.
Thank you. Domenico, would you like to add something about it?
Yeah, Veronique is absolutely right. Is if I can do an example, a mathematical example, not having a coordination of let's say central institution that coordinates different action is like having a vector pointing in different directions. So maybe the overall results are good, but can be more efficient if you have track, if you have a long-term plan, if you have a convergence of activities and technological research pointing to a vision. Otherwise, you have a lot of different vision and a lot probably of results that are less impacting the contrast to protection. The protection less impacting the efficacy of the protection of cultural heritage.
I agree. Definitely, this long-term vision is definitely one of the foundation of this work. Haralampos, maybe you want to add also something.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with Veronique and Domenico. Also, there's another view of having a competence center. It's about raising awareness and also capacity building. What we are talking a lot about is interoperability of data and fragmentation of data. So if there is a competence center led by technological partners, but also social and humanities, they can disseminate and communicate all this need and come up with maybe a European standard that is close to Europeana or the Europeana data model, which is currently used. And also keep in mind that we have the cultural heritage cloud that is being developed now by the European Commission. So if you can be part of that and be a part of the standardization of the data and also try to pass all this information to small museums, to big museums, so you can have all this fragmentation of the data being interoperable and having the information to be used, not by everybody, not by the public, but the people that they need to use it, which might be the ministries of culture of different countries or the law enforcement agencies. This is something that a competence center can advance and be able to do it more easily than a single project or a single organization.
I see, and definitely the European Data Space for Cultural Heritage and ECOS, the cultural cloud, the Cultural Heritage Cloud. Those are two pivotal initiatives. And since you're talking also about interoperability, I know that I see some questions in the chats. So if you bear with us, we're just going through this last question about interoperability, and then we go through the questions in the chat. Because the aim is interoperability, but of course, in general, a major issue in combating illicit trafficking, as Harris was saying, is the fragmentation of data. Right now, how are all the three projects working together towards interoperability of their databases and open data access? Maybe Domenico, you can start on this.
Yeah, sure. As I said during the presentation of Aurora, we are pretty open to many different data formats, let's say that, or data methods of cataloging and maintaining information. But of course, Aurora is not looking also on its garden. So our application, yes, is open. But we found during the project that the fragmentation between the different methodology, even at museum level, is very, very high, as we all know, but it is very, very high. So that is that, okay, our solution is something that can be applied without revolutionizing the current process that are inside a specific museum, for example. So this is a good point. But the problem is not at our level, as I said, but the problem exists, even if not for us, is we are trying to understand how to help different institutions to harmonize together. It's not only a technological knowledge gap, but also is a knowledge gap between how different institutions are managing their artworks or their cultural object in general, or their knowledge on cultural object. And harmonizing that will allow to a even more stronger preservation of cultural heritage using technology like, for example, the blockchain.
I see. And maybe Haralampos, you can continue on that.
Okay, yeah. I mean, one of the main problems that we encountered was interoperability. So what we are doing, we created a database structure that using the European data model and also based on the technical specification of the Cultural Heritage Cloud, we made our database compatible with both these initiatives. So, and also in order to be able to migrate, let's say, data that are either unstructured or not in order format, we're creating algorithms that can migrate and transform this data in a common format. So by that way, we will be compatible both with the Europeana and the cultural heritage. And if someone wants to have access to our data, they can use this common format that is currently being used in the European Union. The openness of the data is not something that's up to us. I mean, the data belongs to the data holder. So if a museum wants to share their data, they can do it, but they are not data that are coming directly from us. They're not constructed and they are not from us. So we're using data that are out there. So the openness is something else that might be an action of the competence center to push these people to open their data, at least for research or scientific reasons.
I see. Maybe some final words on this issue, Veronique?
Yes, this is a very important issue, interoperability, that we are all facing. And the problem is that once you find one solution, you have 1,000 other databases that you're facing with the same issue. So yes, there are technical solutions and we're all working on them. And that's nice that there are different tools and different solutions. But anyway, there is not the magic tool. And this knowledge gap is very much also about a cultural approach. So what we also have to disseminate is this cultural approach to open science and to interoperability, which is another part of the problem, a data culture to be built across disciplinary boundaries. And this is another challenge that is also very much a question of sustainability of research.
Thank you very much. Our hour is almost finished, but we can get some questions from the chats because I see 3 of them. The first one is targeted to Aurora and Enigma. Europe does not allow to have a global vision of the art markets on a global scale without using VPN. Could the use of Aurora and Enigma allow a better visibility of the art markets? Quickly, starting from Haralampos.
Well, this has to do with using web crawlers and using VPN? I mean, it's difficult to understand what the question is.
They say that Europe does not allow to have a global vision of the art market on a global scale without using VPN.
VPN is virtual private network, so it's basically being undetected from outside. I mean, the tools we are developing are going to be used by law enforcement agencies, so I think they have the right infrastructure and also the legal status and all the procedure that they are going to use in order to be able to detect all these illegal activities. I mean, we can do some web crawling in sites or sales sites without keeping any data, just doing a trend and analysis and trend analysis to see what is being trafficked and which is, let's say, the most hot objects that we can use as further information to feed in the experts when they do the analysis.
Domenico, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, no, just to say in the specific case of Aurora, the solution is agnostic on these, let's say, security measures. I mean, we have to check for specific cases in order to adapt the solution. But it is more a matter on security than on the difficulties to adapt. It's like an additional level of security that can be implemented depending on the specific cases, specific uses on the platform. So the platform is pretty versatile on that topic.
Another question asks when there is not a complete inventory of archaeological sites in European and Mid Eastern countries, doesn't that limit the complete inventory of what is being looted from countries and what is being seized by custom agents or border guards? Who would like to answer specifically to this question? Véronique.
Yeah. I think the question is not, the method is not to have a comprehensive inventory there, because we will never know, because those artifacts are looted one day and then they are in free ports for 10 years, and 10 years later you would find them on the art market. So the issue is not to have a comprehensive inventory. The method has to be different. The solution is to be able to recognize the provenance of an object once it appears on the art market. And this is only possible to do when crossing different human and social sciences methods, and especially archaeological methods and art history methods for recognition of provenance. So you cannot find the solution with an inventory. You will find a solution with the recognition of the provenance.
I would go to the next question. We have the last two. The first one seems to me it's pretty straightforward. Are there already examples of operational cooperation in cases of investigations between two or all three projects, which can be used as input to law enforcement agencies? So operational cooperation, cases of investigation in these cases. Are there any between the two or three projects?
Well, I think we're working in these clusters. So first, what we said at the beginning is that we of course are crossing results and methods, but we have first to develop the tools and the project, and then we will discuss about the common methodology to be developed in a second step.
Also, may I add something, Marco? I mean, most of our projects are going to be TRL 6,
exactly.
5. So there is a lot of time in order to be operational in a real environment. But we are going to do some validation and some pilots with the Hellenic police in order to validate the procedures and the workflows and the tools. It's going to be simulated, but we are going to see how we are going to be integrated and enhance the cooperation between the law enforcement agencies and the tools that we are developing.
Great. And then the last question from Maria Claudia. Assessing and documenting the level of interoperability between the different data, MS, I imagine it's member states providers, is something are you focusing on? Do you have already some reports to share? Assessing and documenting the level of interoperability between the different data.
I don't think that we have quantitative information about that issue, but we are developing tools. In ANCHISE, it's the Guardian CH database, but others are also developing different methods. So basically, I think we can say that there are policies for open science and interoperability. There are agencies, there are networks for that, but the level of interoperability is for sure very low because of a lot of accumulated data that we have to transform, and this is an issue that needs means and people to do. I mean, you cannot just say, well, put this in the machine and it will come back interoperable, because you have at the basis of this, you have all the knowledge that is needed to process this interoperability and reference databases, as Haralambos addressed it, is a key question for that. So it's also a question of people.
Domenico?
Sorry, Veronique, I didn't want to interrupt you. Yeah, if may add something. Yeah, data interoperability is, let's say, the most manifest problem. Besides, better behind, there is the methodology harmonization, because we are finding that there is such a different variety of methodologies. The aim is almost the same, of course, between the different cultural institutions, museum of different sizes, but the methodology and the most important thing is to achieve a methodological alignment. So, like general policies, and this is something we will work, all the three projects together, we will work on that. We are collaborating on. And as I said before, from Aurora point of view, interoperability is not an issue, but the problem is the methodology diversity that can be an obstacle, a barrier to implement cutting-edge technologies to contrast illicit trafficking. But of course, the interoperability problem is very important here.
Yeah, I think that specifically the question was also focusing on availability of resources and assessment reports on the issue, but it seems clear that these kind of reports are not available yet. So,
Marco, may I add something?
Of course. Please.
I mean, in Enigma, we use and harvest, let's say, data from the Europeana, which is the bigger aggregator of cultural heritage data in Europe. So Europeana is interoperable, but other data data providers usually they are museums, and usually they have their own inventory, the digital system, the database in a closed system, and they might provide some accessibility through the website where they have some search function. But this data are not open access, and they cannot communicate in real time in order to take data from them. And also, they are not sharing how they are structuring the database and how they are storing all the data, because they use different format, they use different parameters. Everyone has their own system, and there are large museums that they have more resources. There are small museums that they have limited resources, so they have completely fragmented and different systems. So, and if you don't have the ability to go on there and check basically their database, you're not be able to do the report. And usually they're reluctant to share their data and the structure.
Great. Before closing the session, I would like to thank all the speakers, Veronique, Domenico, Haralampos, and also the interventions from the Commission, Rodrigo Martín Galán and Maria Claudia Bodino. Thank you very much for introducing the session and animating and having this wonderful conversation. I would like to give you I don't have the slide right now with me, but I would like to share with you this websites of the three projects that are working together, and as you can see, we are always in conversation. Thank you very much again, and thank you for staying with us until the end. I see that we are almost 60 right now, so that's great. Thank you very much. And we will see you soon in the next ANCHISE Talks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.